from uptown, you know my sound is major. I know you like the lyrics, kid, so just do me a favor. Tell the tech to turn my dad up. This is a fat cut, hey, yo, don't back up. Because I wanna dive in and swim in the mentals, where your thoughts roam. I wanna make your dome my home, therefore you'll never be alone. But when you hear my song, sing along with the rhythm. Cause I got faith in fat beats that I give them. Yes, it's the ears and I'm checking out the blonde one. Maybe I can have one, maybe I can con one. Chill, I'm one with God, brothers, it's hard to stay straight until you're scared straight, and then you can't wait to get out. Then you shout.
Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon. Wow, Ramon, I'll tell you what, you know, this last couple of weeks, I'm talking weather now. The last couple of weeks here in Western Washington, oh my word, what an up and down. I mean, it's like yesterday, you know, we had that day of thunderstorms all day a week and a half ago. And,
yeah.
And yesterday morning, you know, I kind of got wind of this a couple days ago that we may be in for a storm on Sunday. By the way, we're recording this on September 23rd of 2013, and I had kind of heard that we were going to have a bit of a storm come through, and so I didn't really think a whole lot about it. Well, yesterday I kind of took a real day off yesterday, Ramon. I mean, I actually didn't do a damn thing all day long, and it was nice.
Yeah.
But I was laying on the couch watching a movie, and all of a sudden the wind started whistling and thunder started rumbling, and I started seeing lightning flashes, and I looked out, and oh my word, you know, I haven't seen a storm move in that fast in such a long time. I mean, it was like one moment it was partly cloudy, sun was popping through and stuff, and it's like this thing came in just in an instant. It was here, and it dropped bucket upon bucket upon bucket of rain for about 30 minutes, and then it stopped raining, and the clouds went away, and I had completely crystal blue, clear sky right above my house, and there was a ring of clouds around us, but it was intense. And wind. We had like, geez, it must have been 40 mile an hour winds through that, you know, about 30 minutes there that it came through. And you know, I don't know. It just seems. I spent a lot of years here in the Northwest, and it just seems like this year the weather has been more oddball than I've ever seen it before.
That's because the consciousness has been oddball.
Oh, yeah. Well, you definitely got a point there.
Which is, I mean that in the positive and the negative sense. It's been, you know, like, what's the English word? You know, like taking a blender and just, so it's all over the place.
A little chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the right word.
Yeah, we definitely, we're going through a lot of changes right now. And
you know, go ahead.
We'll definitely talk to our guest tonight about some of these changes, and that's right up her alley, and maybe she can shed a little bit of light on what I'm experiencing and what I'm seeing out there right now.
Yeah, you know how I'm always talking about children and stuff like that, and I guess because I've opened myself up to look at the real positive side of the kids coming in, more than, you know, I hear a lot of people just talk about the negative side, and I see that too. You know, the parent is trying, you know, you go to dinner and then the table next to you, the parent's trying to talk to their kids, and they're all on the phone and ignoring the mom and the dad, and it's like they're not even there. I see that as well. But for example, I went to a lunch on Saturday, and it was one of my wife's friend's birthdays. So there's this child with one of her friends has a child who's 2 years old. And right away we took to each other, and we were playing, and he was sitting on my lap, and I was feeding him and cleaning up his boogies and stuff like that. And she's talking to us about him, and when they fight, when my friends when my wife's friends fight with her husband, the child goes, gets a picture of the family, and gives it to them. And we were just all, when she told us that story, we were just all shocked. I mean, the kind of thinking and the kind of, what's the word, Tom? You know, to be able to say, like, first of all, to recognize, okay, this is me, this is mom, this is dad in the picture. They're fighting. Let me remind them of what a family is. And they just stop. She says it's the most amazing thing, and I was just blown away by that.
Hmm.
Like a 2 year old. I mean, I'm impressed if a 10-year old child does that.
Right, right.
So, there goes my positive story for this younger generation. They're just on fire, from my point of view.
There are some amazing kids coming in now. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you had a chance to see, Tom. I put up a video, and I can't really tell you about it because anything I say about it ruins it. But it says a 3 minute video that puts Hollywood movies to shame.
Oh,
And there's an Asian girl there like reading something. Watch that video. It's just amazing. Have some tissue next to you,
hmm.
because you will tear. It's just amazing, amazing. Whoever created this story is just amazing.
Right. Speaking of videos, my nephew Jacob put out
Yeah,
another one. We have that luminous flicker one there on the main page. Maybe I'll this week I'll dig up the other one. He put another one out here last week, right along the same lines. He's really guy's got some amazing talent, and he's
yeah.
speaking on some very poignant things in our world today. So
Well, he has a crazy uncle to thanks.
yeah, right. No, I remember I'm not crazy anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Anyway, moving on really quickly, some of the new stuff. I found some new stuff. One is pyramid power, harnessing the energetic field of pyramids, and that one's about, some people when they're in the king's chamber and the energies and some of the during the early days too, how much energy they were feeling there in that area. Moving on, activating your pineal gland. This is another news one that I found, just little different points to activate your pineal gland and stuff like that. And 10 ways to shift your consciousness. Just simple things like just being nice to people. Lately for myself, when I have some negative thoughts or think something not so nice, I kind of like turn around and then look how I feel and where I'm feeling that. And lately I've been finding there's a point when I have these negative thoughts, there's a point that doesn't feel that great. So I kind of like send that area love. So that's my way. And last week I was talking about, and I mentioned it again, the 10 signs that the global elite are losing control.
Hmm.
So check that out, and any more news that I find, I'll post up. And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter. Let's see, where else? YouTube, Tom's YouTube, which Tom always does these great little Tom talks. So make sure you catch those.
Yeah, I think I'm about due for another one too. It's been in my mind, so
Yeah,
I'll have another one out here probably by this weekend.
yeah. And one more news thing. I want to mention this, but I'm not sure. In England, they're gonna start what's it called? Let me look it up. They're gonna start filtering the esoteric content. So a lot of people are speaking up against that.
They're
So
they're starting to do what? Filter them?
yeah, you know how you can filter like porn and spam.
Oh, really? They're starting to add them to the filter out the occult and esoteric websites and stuff like that.
Yeah, you don't want too many monkeys waking up.
Oh.
At least they don't. So,
There's several websites that I can't get to at work right now because they have one of those filters in place here.
exactly.
Yeah.
I guess it's already here and we already there in the States, and We didn't even
It's
know.
an elective thing that the corporation or the companies sign up for. It's not something that is widespread and done by the ISPs.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's probably the next step is where the ISPs start doing it.
Hmm.
Anyways, on with the show.
Yes, so we have an amazing guest, which I'm so thrilled about. And, I think I might have caught that one time she was first on TV way back then, but, you see something and you don't even give it much thought until later, when you start waking up and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know I saw her, oh geez, the early 2000s, somewhere along those lines on one of those paranormal shows that I was watching. But anyways, we have Lori Toye with us tonight. After a few years away from the spotlight, internationally known author and channel Lori Toye takes us back to the beginning on how this life of enlightenment first began in her latest book, A Teacher Appears. Lori's once again making herself available for speaking engagements and radio shows. In her new book, A Teacher Appears, Lori offers 51 small but simple channeled lessons about earth changes and humanity's opportunity to open and to accept the I am presence, your individualized presence of God. All it requires is inspiration, appreciation, love, and a good teacher. Lori is also the founder of the I Am America maps. Her other publications include 3 additional prophecy maps, 4 books, a video, and more than 60 audio tapes based on sessions with Master Teachers Saint Germain and other ascended masters. Once spending much of her time in the spotlight on national TV shows and radio, Lori feels this information is even more needed today with the current vibrations of our planet than ever before. Once again, she's stepping forward as a teacher and guide. Her website is www.loritoye.org. That's LORITOYE.org. And Lori, I would like to give you a big, warm 100th monkey welcome to our show.
Well, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be on the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned I know I saw you on, geez, I'm not sure which one of those shows it was. I think maybe it was that Paranormal Borderline show back in the early 2000s. Oh, geez, what's the host's name? He was a Star Trek guy, Ramon.
I
Jonathan
just,
Frakes, right?
yeah, I never remember their real names, just their. He played William Riker
Right.
on.
Yeah, we hit it pretty hard in the 90s, after, of course, publishing the I'm America map. We did all that we could to promote that information. We felt that was really important to get out to the public at that time, and so we were on radio. We had a school in Philadelphia. We did all that we could do to promote the information and all the material that surrounded it.
Well, tell me a little bit about the evolution of this whole process. I mean, housewife with a bunch of kids. Where was your mind at when all this started coming? Were you a spiritual person at the time, or?
Well, honestly, it came from such a conventional background. It's still a bit of a shock to me that I'm doing this full time, and this has been my life for well over 20 years, almost 25 years now. But it was probably, when it all started for me, I was in the Pacific Northwest, and I was 22 years old, and I was working as a sales rep at a weekly newspaper near Sequim, Washington. And I was called to pick up an ad, and I went out to this little health food store, walked in the door, and the woman at the counter pointed her finger at me and said, "You have work to do for Master Saint Germain." And, of course, I wanted to pick the ad up, and I wanted to get kind of in and out as quick as I could. And I said, "Well, okay, who is Master Saint Germain?" And she said, "Well, come with me, and I'll show you his picture." So I followed her to the back of the store, into her office, and on the wall of her office hung a picture of the Master Saint Germain, the Comte de Saint Germain. And almost instantly, I thought I knew him before, even though there wasn't any reason that I could, because it was obviously 18th century. And so I asked her, I said, "Okay, who is he beside this picture?" And she said, "Well, Master Saint Germain is an ascended master." And I said, what is an ascended master? Because I had no idea what she was even talking about. And she said, an ascended master was a being, just like you or I, regular, ordinary person, who has raised their consciousness to a new level, that is, to a place where they no longer require a body to be incarnated. And instead they reside, some reside at fourth dimension, some at fifth dimension, some onward into other dimensions or locus of expression. And she said they are pledged to help us, and they serve humanity to help them also raise their consciousness and get to a new level of evolution. Well, I was intrigued. And no doubt there was something lit within me at that moment, and I wanted to know more. And she handed me a pamphlet, which I read and studied and became quite dog-eared over the years. And she actually became my first teacher of the Ascended Master tradition.
Wow, that's synchronicity led you in there. It sounds like.
Oh, absolutely.
And so this woman obviously had her own psychic gifts and was able to see something within you.
She was a member of a church out of Seattle, and the minister of that church was a medium. His name was Keith Reinhardt. Controversial. He would actually go into these deep trances, and ectoplasm would come out of his nose and ears and mouth, and master teachers would put these actual bodies on through the ectoplasm. They would then perform all the miracles of Christ. They would, do healings on people. They would turn water into wine. A lot of times he would manifest what are known as apports, which are these sacred objects that are brought over from the other dimension to help us raise our consciousness through them. And so that was my first introduction, of course, to that material. And coming from such a conventional background, I was pretty shocked that such a thing even existed. But from that, I discovered that there was a whole provenance of Ascended Master teachings. And some of the teachings actually, of course, her teacher was from the spiritualist movement. But there are also other movements, and like the Theosophy movement, started by Blavatsky. And of course, that evolved, and there's a great provenance there that evolved over to Alice Bailey and all of her work. Also, simultaneously at the same time, the Ballards and the I Am Activity were coming out with their material, and that led to the Bridge to Freedom material. And then from Bridge to Freedom, simultaneously there was also the 80K Luke material. She was the secretary to Guy Ballard of the I Am Activity material. And then from that came Elizabeth Clare Prophet, who is probably the best known in our time, to actually, bring forward a lot of the seminal teachings of the Ascended Masters.
Did you ever find yourself like saying, this is beyond me, this is a little too nuts, I need to turn around and run?
Many times. Many times, because it's such an evolution, as we all know. We're only meant to absorb so much at a time. But what happened to me were a series of really interesting events that inevitably led me to know that this was the path that I was given to tread in this lifetime. In 1983, I was still doing quite a bit of meditation and actually practicing a lot of the things that my teacher had given me. And I had asked in some way, could I be of service? Could I help the master teachers in whatever way that they saw was the right way? And of course I waited and waited, no answer, no answer. So I just sort of dismissed it. But then one night, I was, of course, asleep, and we're living on the family farm at the time, and I could smell sharp oxygen in the room, or like that ozone, that smell that you get around a thunderstorm.
Right, the ozone.
Yes, and I thought I'd left the window open, so I rose up in bed. At the foot of my bed, there was the Master Saint Germain, and his aura effervesced and crackled with electricity, and it was total violet. They talk about the violet flame in Saint Germain, and it was just complete violet fire exuding from him, and I thought, I must still be dreaming, having a lucid dreaming experience. So I rose up in bed and I waved my hand through his figure, and it disappeared. And so I just thought, well, I guess it was just a dream that I'd had. But then it was shortly thereafter that I began having a recurring dream. And in that recurring dream, 4 beings in white robes presented a map of America. But this map was not an ordinary map. This map showed extensive changes of the coastlines of the United States. But more than anything that I noticed from this map was there was this extremely high spiritual energy exuding from the map. And that profoundly affected me. And I remember after that, I called a friend. We were in a study group, a spiritual study group together, and I had told her about the map, and she said, well, you know, Lori, it's always been prophesied that we would enter into a time of great change on Earth, but that after that great change, that purification, we would have a golden age, a time of higher energy on Earth. And so I, at that time, was the mother of 3 small children and wasn't really willing to go out there and make this my cause at that moment in time. And I just accepted what she said. But 5 years later, my life drastically changed. And in 1988, I was a single mother raising my children and very stressed out. And so I attended a meditation class just to deal with my stress. And I remember the leader of the class went to each of us, you know, after we would do our group meditation and wanted to know what were our experiences. And when it was my turn, I said, well, you know, when I meditate, I always see these master teachers around me, and they talk to me and they explain things to me, and they're present most of the time. And her mouth dropped open and she said, well, you must be a channel. And at that time, I had no idea what a channel was. I never had heard the word before. And then she went on to explain to me that most people do not have those experiences in meditation. I just assumed that everyone did. And a friend was attending the class with me, and so we grabbed a cup of coffee after the meeting, and he said, you know, Lori, you're so sensitive to energy and the fact that master teachers appear in meditation. Do you think I could drop in early some morning when you're meditating and ask some questions of these teachers? I said, well, yeah. And I had also told him about my dream of the map. And so he was a student of the Edgar Cayce teachings, and he was very interested in the whole idea of earth changes. And I never even had heard of earth changes before other than my dream of the map. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, I would like to, you know, ask some questions and see if we can get some information about the map. And so we agreed to meet in the early morning hours, and slowly but surely and methodically through a whole process that I outline in this book, A Teacher Appears, we had over 80 sessions, and we created the I'm America map, but also all the ancillary material that later on kind of got kicked to the side, which are these 51 little lessons, which are all about how we integrate energy and work with energy. And this book describes my whole process of how I open to becoming a channel, but also it's about the I am and the I am presence.
It's a fantastic piece of work, by the way, and you know, I'll throw this out there right now. I urge all of you guys out there listening to take a look at this work. It's definitely some good stuff, guys, and you will gain some insight by experiencing it. So we'll get you some more details towards the end of this hour. So, Lori, something that I haven't done yet, and I'm guessing that you have done, is have you compared what Edgar Cayce put out to what came through you, and how close are they?
Well, in my beginning stages, I was comparing quite a bit. I tried to not read other channeled work, mostly because I don't want it to influence my consciousness, and more about that later. But yes, in the beginning, we really began to compare it, and I describe in the book how we were so anxious to get the information out. We really felt that this was something that was imminent, that we would see this perhaps in our lifetime, maybe even sooner, within the next 10 years of its publication. So we loaded 500 I'm America maps in the back of my little Pontiac Grand Am, and we went on this author tour through Washington State, Oregon, and on down into California, and later on through Arizona and up through Utah. And through that process of actually meeting with people and having the experience of sharing the material, it took time, probably about 2 or 3 years. I began to realize that this wasn't about it being accurate, that this was not about a prediction, that this was a prophecy, that is, something not carved in stone, that indeed this was a message that had been given to us way ahead of time so we could begin to change it, to ameliorate it, to possibly avoid it. And later on I studied prophecy just from a Hebrew point of view. And in the Aramaic prayers of Jesus, the author talked about how prophecy from their tradition, that they would very often interpret a prophecy 3 times. That is, they would have the literal interpretation, the metaphoric interpretation, and then the mystic message. And from that, my whole point of view shifted on this. So while many people receive this type of information, I think there's a lot of people out there who get this type of information, I do believe that we're being told this for a reason. And we're being told this so that we can shift our consciousness now and possibly change this whole outcome.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Ramon, you had some questions along those lines, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, when I was getting into your material, I was just amazed, and some things were starting to like click together, and let me start off with this. When I was younger, I used to have dreams of. I grew up in a building that's 22 stories high, and I used to have dreams of going up to the last floor, and there were these window guards that were like sideways bars, and I would be at the last bar holding my breath because the water was coming in. And then I would have there was one earthquake. One dream that was so terrifying. There was an earthquake where my whole neighborhood was leveled, and at a young age, I already knew that our the buildings in New York where I grew up weren't meant for earthquakes. So my brother was killed in that dream and stuff like that because the whole neighborhood was leveled out. So coming back to when I was getting in your information, and then I started remembering some things. Starting off, for example, in the 1950s, you had the contact movement and the beatnik movement, and then in the 1960s, you had the hippie movement, and from there shot off the new age movement. So I kind of feel that right after Edgar Casey, and there were other smaller movements in that area as well before the 1950s, but I kind of feel like right after Edgar Casey came out with that all these, for some reason, the West Coast became a magnet for spirituality, and it was just like drawing in. Do you feel that because of whatever the case may be, all this, the West Coast being such a spiritual magnet, that this kind of has helped to subside things that were supposed to happen?
I think so, Ramon, I do. And this is sort of interesting because alongside these, amazing, tremendous, catastrophic, and almost horrific prophecies of earth change was also this prophecy of a new time. And they talked about these centers of light, golden city vortices, that would also birth alongside the great time of change. And there are 5 of them in the United States. And I'd like to talk about that later, too, in this interview if we have time.
Yes, please.
Definitely.
Yeah, and what has been so fascinating to me is why the United States was first. And the master teachers always talked about that the United States would be the first to go through these changes, the first to recover, and then give aid to the rest of the world. Well, I've always thought that was maybe personality on my part, some cultural ambiguity, something like that nature. But it's occurred to me even more so lately that the reason why the United States is the first to go through these great changes is because we're the ones that are causing our culture and the way that we think. We're the ones that are causing so much ecological disparagement.
Hmm.
We're the ones that are driving these huge carbon footprints. We're the ones, bigger is always better. And I think we are the ones that need to change the most. Because all throughout the world, if you'll notice, with the exception of maybe Europe to some extent, are a lot of indigenous cultures who practice a lot of, eco-spirituality. And they're praying all the time. And they're really working to hold the earth in balance. But our culture is one where we don't respect that. Our number one motive in life is money. That's how we measure success. So there's something to be said for that. And I think that a lot of these groups, one that comes to my mind, of course, is Paramahansa Yogananda's group. He's got 2 temples, located on the California coastline. I think there's something to that there are people that are more in tune and recognize and know that something is coming and that we need to do all that we can at a spiritual level to intervene. So it is a fascinating thing to understand that we have this connectivity to the earth, that we are indeed stewards of what is happening in our ecosystem, in nature. And we're also, to some degree then, stewards of the Deva kingdoms, of the elementals, the fairies, the gnomes, because we have this ability to have such a tremendous amount of power over the type of environment that we will live in. And honestly, not to get too doom and gloom, I really do feel that we're really at a tipping point in terms of our whole environment and what is happening with climate change and global warming, and which was one of the motives of why I did publish A Teacher Appears. I felt it was time for this book to come out and time for the message to be very clear.
So let me pull this down at a smaller scale. Have you, because me and Tom have experienced this separately and together, have you ever changed a situation with your conscious, for example, like weather or, anything?
I've experienced some people who have that ability. Usually you'll find them more in the Taoist tradition, the traditional Taoist tradition. They're generally usually Chinese and come out of some, or Native American, some tradition where they've been trained since they were very young. But in 1996, 1997, we asked the master teachers very similar questions. What can we do to change the scenario? And that is when they gave us the 6-map scenario, where they began to talk about multiple possibilities and probabilities and how our consciousness can shapeshift the future. And they began to talk about prophecy in terms of simultaneous reality. And they gave us a series of 5 maps. The 6th map, of course, is the Young America map, is the worst and dire outcome from the beginning of map number 1, which is not as severe. And they began to explain to us how our consciousness was shape-shifting all the time between different realities, and that it was up to us as divine co-creators to begin to choose what reality we wanted to live in. And that through that process, we could actually have this profound effect on world events, not only in terms of climate change and weather processes, but also global economic scenes, the social, cultural paradigms, and everything that was involved. And so that was really fascinating to understand that from their perspective.
Yeah, because I almost feel like there's, I hate using these words, but like a struggle for our attention and what we focus on. So you have one side that is, everything is negative and everything is going to hell. Then you have another side that is like, we can make things better, we can change things, you have your powerful being kind of thing. And my question is, I always wonder how can I ask this question? How are things, okay, so you have this one person who meditates, who, tries to heal the planet, and, they're really coming along really great. Then you have this other person who just follows what the news says, and every time they see the news, oh, the world's ending, oh my God, everything is crap, oh, the children are terrible, and everything is just terrible. So I'm wondering how, for every that one person that is meditating and doing something positive, how many of those are worth the negative? Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, I do. The Hopi have this great prophecy, and they talk about this time that we're in. First off, you'll love this prophecy. This is one of the Ascended Masters' prophecies. They say that in this time that we are living in a time of time compaction, that is, events have been accelerated. One day may have as many events that normally we would have in 1 year because of the time that we're living in and how galactic light is streaming now to the Earth from the great central sun or the galactic center, and that light is really working to evolve us as quickly as possible. So we're shedding karmas very, very fast. That said, the Hopis have this great prophecy, and what they talk about is this polarization that you were just describing, that we are actually living in two worlds, or they say the two-hearted. And there are those who have invested themselves just in conventionality and in fear. And then there are others who have really invested themselves in love and the law of love and working towards a positive outcome with where our world is heading. And they say to balance yourself between those two worlds is like walking on the edge of a feather. And so we really are living in a very fascinating and interesting time because I feel the push and pull of those two worlds every day. And I think most people out there do as well.
Mm. Yeah, definitely, definitely. So we call ourselves the Hundredth Monkey Radio because of the the implications that phenomena has with the social consciousness of humanity. Question I got for you is, what have you learned through all your years of research and communication with these ascended masters on how, what kind of an effect that we can have on that social consciousness, and whether or not that actual hundredth monkey effect is a true phenomena? Is that social consciousness something that once a certain number, or I hate to try to quantify this, but once a certain percentage is reached of people who know something, does it become? Do you think that becomes a common knowledge throughout the whole social consciousness?
Well, yeah, Hundredth Monkey, you probably know this, originally came out from Lyle Watson, and he was fascinating as a writer. I've studied some of his material, and basically he talks about how energy affects everything. Of course, you're talking too about paradigm shift, which I'm also a great believer in. But what I've learned through the years is that there are these subtle nuances in energy, and they have such a profound effect upon us. And we must open our consciousness so we can start to become aware of unseen energy and the fact that everything really is energy. And we learn how to work with that energy. Now, from an Ascended Master tradition, in their teachings, they talk about the 7 rays of light and sound. And these are the rays of the color spectrum. It's all about light and how light and sound work together. And, of course, in Vedic tradition, they address the same thing, too. They do that through mantra. And then there are various different ceremonies that they perform. And so these things all affect us. But right now, we're being affected more than ever that we could ever imagine. And not to get too complex, but I have to be in order so that you can really understand this.
Our listeners can handle it.
Our sun is not one star. It is actually two stars. And this comes out of the Vedic texts. And they're rotating around each other. And we have not yet found the capability of how to find this scientifically, because the luminosity of the one star that is lit actually overpowers the other star that is a dwarf star. And in their rotational pull, what they do is they circle around each other, and there is a greater sun known as the Galactic center, and it's a huge sun. And of course, this is talked about in the Mayan tradition and Aztec tradition. And this dual sun, this binary sun, arcs energy from the galactic center, and then from there sheds a type of light on Earth. And this light is very different than the visible type of light that we see, like when we turn on a light in our living room. It is a light that actually controls our memory function. How much can we retain? How much do we know and understand? And of that knowledge, what do we revere? What do we find important? Technology, making money, or spiritual truth? And they claim that the more spiritual light that there is, this type of light, that we revere spiritual truth, we find that most valuable. It also controls lifespan, and so lifetimes go up. Well, what happens is when the dwarf is behind is somewhat behind this greater sun, its twin sun, and the luminosity of that twin is shedding light on Earth, the lighted twin. We receive more galactic light. Well, Vedic texts knew and understood this, and they've calibrated it all, and this is how the great epochs of time are measured. They're known as yugas. And we have a golden age, which is Krita Yuga, which is 100% light spectrum coming from galactic center. We have Trita Yuga, which is Silver Age, and that's 75% light. We have Dwapara Yuga, which is Bronze Age, 50% light. And then we have Kali Yuga, which is 25% light. Well, how this is calculated has been argued for a long time. But it's interesting because I agree with both timing systems. There's what they call classical Puranic timing. And they say that we are in Kali Yuga, hands down, that we are in this age of iron, that we do not have enough light, that we are really on this downward spiral in our evolution. But there is a prophecy in there where they talk about the golden age of Kali Yuga, which starts about the time of 1800, and then light spectrums begin to grow and to grow. And we are now in what is known as the golden age of Kali Yuga. And it's a 10,000-year period where these light frequencies will grow, and then we will evolve through that. And I think we hit the apex of the energies around like 6900 AD, and then it diminishes. And so I'm of the opinion that the Golden City vortices that I spoke about, there's 51 of them total throughout the world, calibrate and actually amplify that energy on the Earth. But we also are all receiving this energy right now. And so that's why we are feeling these two worlds, because what it is, it's the way to understand it, yes, we are in Kali Yuga, which is an overall downward decline. But yet, because we have this little upward push right now, it's sort of like a minor cycle within a major cycle. We're more in a downward slide, but we're getting this opportunity to evolve at this time. And I think that this is kind of like, we have this saying in farming, to make hay while the sun is shining. And that's how I see it. So we have this little bump for us that we can take advantage of. And I think that's why right now we find that there are these two worlds, because it seems as if not everyone can receive enlightenment. Not everyone can enjoy a great life that is free from poverty. We still have, a lot of suffering on this earth. But yet, simultaneously, we're starting to understand technology at this new level. But yet, here we are so dependent on technology. Just as you were saying, Ramon, kids sitting there on their iPads or phones, while you're trying to have dinner as family. So there is like a downward decline, but yet this great opportunity is right here for us to receive more light from the Galactic Center. And so I think that is something that's very important to understand.
There's... Go ahead, Ramon.
Go ahead, Tom. No, go ahead.
Okay. I definitely see a kind of a split happening in humanity, where we have a growing faction of humanity who is asking the questions, who's going, who am I?
Yeah, applying some critical thinking.
Yeah, what's really going on here? They're starting to look out on society as a whole and seeing it for what it really is. Seeing the control and the unnatural, the unnaturalness of it. And actually, they're growing spiritually. They're growing internally. And then there's that other faction who is, who loves that game, loves that control. And so I'm starting to see a real divide happen here.
I see it too.
Yeah.
I really see it too. It's almost like there's people who have evolved, and of course it's one of the teachings in A Teacher Appears. They talk about making decisions from your heart, learning to think from your heart. And really the science behind that's the heart brain. And we actually have these cells in our heart that are just like brain cells. And we must activate them and learn and exercise them and get them to work and start making more and more decisions from our heart. Right. And then I see other agendas that it seems like the reptilian brain is dominating. Right. So this lower level, really base energy. And so it's fascinating to me because, again, it gets into, are we of one heart or two hearts? And as the Hopi have said, and the masters, of course, often call this, moving into one or unity consciousness.
Yeah, I've had that vision in my mind for quite a few years now of unity consciousness, and at times I've been able to actually see like a light switch being flicked, and that all of humanity just all of a sudden getting it. Wow, we got it. We're connected. We are actually, we are fundamentally on such a base level. We are the same. You and I are one.
We are, and we are programmed to interact in a compassionate manner, and that is our real programming. Right. That is the real human, the God-man within us. But there's just such a push and a pull in Western versus Eastern thinking. We're all into individualization and how important that whole process is, and it's the individual always versus the group, and we have this innate fear of moving into group mind, into group consciousness. But the way that I see this in terms of spiritual development is that the I Am, which is the presence of God, and then the I'm presence, which is the individualized presence of God, grooms our consciousness to move towards the group. So it's almost like a natural sequential evolution that we give up our individualization. In fact, many times in A Teacher Appears, it was so fascinating to me because the master teachers, when they would present themselves to give us a lesson, sometimes 3 or 4 of them would appear, but then they would merge their consciousness as one. And they were doing that intentionally and purposefully so that we could begin to understand that it's through group effort that this greater activation of human potential is activated.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me, like I was saying earlier, and I've told this story on the show, so I'll make it real quick. But me and Tom have experienced where we went to this place called Iseti, and we usually go there like to go UFO watching, and it was really cloudy. And to make a long story short, the group that was there was like, I don't know, like 100 or more people, and we focused our intention to move the clouds. And right where we were at, there was a nice, yeah, how big, Tom? Like a circle.
Oh, geez, it was probably above us. It was probably a good 5 to 10 miles across the circle that we opened up above us.
Yeah. So my point saying this, that I find that there's been a lot of like since I think the first one I personally participated in was maybe 2008 or 9, and then there was that big one 2011, and and 12 12 12 11 11 11 10 10 10. There's always not only those dates, but there's always these mass like meditations to shift something, and I kind of felt personally that we have shifted so much that compared to where I was younger, what I was feeling, and maybe that was just because I was in such a fear base, because when I was younger, but now I feel that we shifted, and you know, you don't always have to get hit by the proverbial 2x4 to get the message. And I kind of feel that a lot of us are moving that way, and those who are still like seeing the world as such a negative place, like we're talking about that split, that they're sinking to such a low that it can't get any lower, that they'll just, be like, start asking those questions, or
Oh,
they start.
I see big changes that have
Yeah.
happened. I mean, especially in my own spiritual journey. When I first started studying the Ascended Master tradition, I went out, to try to find just some books, so that I could read. We didn't have New Age centers back then. We didn't have New Age bookstores, so like it was like the most amazing phenomenon, to go through the 90s and there were actually bookstores that's all they sold were New Age books.
Right.
So that was very profound.
Yeah.
And of course, many of the different you probably heard of harmonic convergence,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
and that was huge. That was huge. I think that really opened the door for many
I'm
people.
sure it did.
And I think
Yeah.
2012 as well. 2012 was huge in terms of our shift into a different paradigm. I know there were a lot of people disappointed that the world didn't end, but I think the old world ended then, and now we are officially into the new times.
Yeah, definitely. I have to agree with you there. A lot of people say nothing happened, but maybe externally nothing really happened. But I know internally, just from what Ramon and I have been doing and all the different people that we've talked to through the radio show, there was a tremendous inner shift that happened for all of us at that time. So
I think many of us, I was following at the time a friend of mine who was trained by Hundredth men and is traditional Mayan, and that final year was very difficult for a lot of people. We all kind of experienced dark night of the soul.
right,
We all had to face our shadow side. And I think that we're seeing that more and more with people as we enter into the new times. It's almost like the new times are demanding this higher evolved state out of us.
right,
And so that's some of my theory behind Earth change. And it's almost as if that the Earth is going through this tremendous change along with us. She's mirroring our consciousness. And it would almost appear as if that these changes might be necessary at some level. I don't know how drastic they're going to be or how difficult it will be, but it's almost as if the changes are necessary in order to get us to this new place in our
the
evolutionary
catalyst,
cycle.
right,
It's interesting because through the years of doing this type of work, there's two different groups of people who have really evolved with the whole theme of our changes. And one group is sort of the prepper mentality, and they would say tabula rasa, let it go, clean slate. Let's just have everything be over and we can start fresh and new and build it from the ground up.
Right.
And have our new age like that. And then there's another group that says, but wait, consciousness affects things, and it's steadily and constantly recalibrating, and the choices that we make every day will create the world that we live in, and perhaps we can do something about this and ameliorate this so we can actually create a better world, a more compassionate, loving, and giving world for one another. And I have a tendency more to go with more of that second philosophy. Although perhaps maybe tabula rasa might be easier at some levels. And but I do think that, back to where we started, in this conversation, that there's a reason why we're getting this message. And I think that reason is so that we can do something, so we can change the outcome.
Right. Agreed.
A change of heart can change the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, well, we're nearing the top of the first hour.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. That flew by really fast.
No, I think you're pushing the clock ahead again.
Yeah, well, time has been a fickle thing here this last couple of decades, so it's definitely been interesting to watch pass. So, Lori, if you would like to share with our listeners where they can get a hold of your material and pick up the book in.
Of course. I have two websites. They can go to LoriToye.com, and lots of free information there, prophecies, information on golden cities, my books. I have a online bookstore there. They can also go to Amazon and purchase The Teacher Appears in Kindle edition. But I have another site, LoriToye.org, and we're offering A Teacher Appears for free. They're in audio book form, and I think that they'll enjoy it. We actually cast voice actors into the different roles of the master teachers, which added an entirely new dimension to the work, and I think they'll enjoy it.
It is an amazing listen, guys, so I would definitely urge you to go check that out. Okay, well, next hour I think we'll start off. I'd kind of like to talk about the Golden Cities a bit and find out what they're all about. So
yeah, and I wonder if any of us is living in one now already.
Well, you might be there where you're at in Japan, Ramon. We'll have to find out. Okay, well, guys, we love you, and man. If you haven't become a member yet, Ramon and I would urge you to click the join button and become another monkey and have access to all that second hour material. We'll see you in the second hour. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
Until you're scared straight and then you can't wait to get out. Then you shout, damn, I got freedom. Unless it's being taught, black man, I know you need one. The right time to make you free your mind. Wake up, if you missed it, then press rewind. It's the right time to make you free your mind. Wake up, if you missed it, then press rewind. It's the right time to make you free your mind. Wake up, if you missed it, then press rewind. It's the right time to make you free your mind. Wake up. The plan, then that's the native. Shouldn't tell an artist not to be creative. You see, the motive is to control more than this did. Hit, listen up, listen the soul, and I'll bring much more than your average MC. Please give me a break, man. Let me be me so I can be free to do as I please. See what I see, be who I be. And yo, act like me. I got the rhyme and my timing's from the center. Lyrics from the brain, even when I start to enter. The beats I'm bending, the vibes I'm sending, it's pleasure, never better. Even though shit is a mess, I never stress, in touch with insight, therefore I'm blessed with the armor. Tell your mama, but kill the drama. It's the right time to make you free your mind. Wake up, if you missed it, then press rewind. It's the right time to make you free your mind. Wake up, if you missed it, then press rewind. It's the right time to make you free your mind. Wake up, if you missed it, then press rewind. It's the right time to make you free your mind. Wake up. Yo, the master rhymer indiscreet. I walk the street with the knowledge, learning about things that the label makes the placement. Then my face went across the screen. This girl saw me getting raw to the beats with the gasoline. My self-esteem went through the roof. Stepped into the club, yo, I got juice. Got loose on the MI. Now she's in my face, dragging me all around the place. Damn, it's a disgrace that I can't enjoy my craft, spew my math. Cause I'm too busy running away from this girl with the dumb laugh. My patch straight, so I lose the habit. And yo, I bounce like the rabbit. Yo, she's got the habit cause she's chasing me. I'm out the door, kid. It's in the soul and I'm free. The right time to make you free your mind. Wake up. If you missed it, then press rewind. It's the right time to make you free your mind. Wake up. If you missed it, then press rewind. It's the right time to make you free your mind. Wake up.